Hello, everyone. Welcome to SUSECON Digital 2021. My name is Benjamin Landorf. I'm product manager for SUSE Manager at SUSE, and I'm going to give you an overview of the SUSE Manager and SUSE Manager for Retail roadmap, what's up in the next 12, 18 months, and give you an outlook of what's coming after that period. Before we start looking at SUSE Manager itself, let me have a quick look at, give you a quick overview of today's enterprise IT landscape. So we have a lot of enterprise Linux adoption and a lot of variety here. Numerous distributions available, which is a good thing. Gives you choice, but also makes things a bit more complex. We have a similar situation with enterprise cloud strategy, mostly not betting everything on one particular cloud, but mixing multiple clouds and usually on-prem as well. So a lot of variety combinations here as well. We see that in terms of security, we are not quite yet there because 80% of all the breaches that happen could be prevented by proper configuration patch management. And that, but also some other effects, are definitely due to the fact that overall IT complexity is growing, and it's growing exponentially, especially in terms of infrastructure that's available. So when we take a quick look at the challenges that also then lead directly to how SUSE Manager can help you with those challenges, those can be categorized in two broad categories. Stuff that deals with day one, so provisioning, configuration, deployment challenges, and day two, so the operational challenges, so the day-to-day operation, manage, make sure your environment is secure, compliant, and monitor the health of your systems. While usually most of the focus is on day-to-day operations, because it's just the more common scenario and the day-to-day scenario, so to speak. All that management, security, compliance, and so on, health of your system starts with a proper day zero setup. So SUSE Manager is going to cover both types of challenges for you. So what exactly is SUSE Manager on a very high level? Well, the promise we make is that you can manage all your Linux with SUSE Manager everywhere. But if I want to explain what SUSE Manager is and what it does and how it helps you, I like to use this particular picture here because it says more than 1,000 words. There are still words on there as well, but if you focus on the image first, then it shows a backstage area in a large theater, and that's exactly how SUSE Manager works behind the scenes, coordinating everything, making sure that whatever is going to happen on stage can happen. So basically that your applications can run on wherever, whenever you need them in a coordinated fashion, and everything they need is there, from storage to network and OS and so on. So that's basically SUSE Manager in a nutshell. And we like to think of it as an infrastructure DevOps tool, if you like. So from that very high level view, where are we today? What does SUSE Manager do? How does it help our customers in a bit more detail? So the challenges you usually face when you use SUSE Manager, or that you try to address with SUSE Manager, is health, compliance, security, that I already outlined. And that's kind of independent of where you face them, in the private cloud, multi-cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud settings. And the tools you need to address those challenges are basically also always the same. You need asset management, you need to provision and image building, you need package management, patch management, configuration management, of course, workload orchestration, and sometimes you need to redeploy your systems. So That's all basically the scope of SUSE Manager, or everything that we cover. And there are some very specific things that we do, and that we do maybe a bit different than other tools. So we allow you to manage all your enterprise Linux with SUSE, or almost all enterprise Linux distributions with SUSE Manager. So besides the obvious OpenSUSE and SUSE, we allow you to manage your RHEL systems. Ubuntu, Debian, community is currently work in progress. There's Astra in the Alibaba Cloud. And RHEL, of course, also includes CentOS and less expanded support on Oracle Linux. So there's a lot of variety that we provide. What we haven't done yet, we haven't gotten around to yet, is support Windows. So that's maybe the one major operating system that we do not yet cover. But we're definitely working towards that goal. So wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of years we also cover that. Besides covering everything, or managing everything Linux, at least in enterprise, we also allow you to basically manage it everywhere. So independent of whether it's on-premise, physical virtual workloads, a lot of platforms support it, whether it's a public cloud, private cloud, hybrid or multi-cloud environment. SUSE Manager works the same basically everywhere on all of those platforms or mixes of platforms. What do you allow to do? So at the core of SUSE Manager, maybe the most used functionality that we offer is software management, so patching, updating, and installing. We base it on salt orchestration and automation, and allow you to schedule remote commands, action chains, and to orchestrate your workloads. So that's maybe at the heart of what SUSE Manager traditionally does. We expanded on that idea a bit recently, within the last two 3 years, by introducing content lifecycle management. So we don't only allow you to manage your systems, but we also allow you to test everything, both in a dev and a QA stage, or whatever stage you might want to define, before you deploy to the production. And that includes patches, updates that come from vendors like SUSE, or your own applications that you build on top of that. And you can test them, and then with a click of a button, transfer that part of the configuration that worked in dev or QA to the next stage. We, of course, also support operation system image building. Same for container image building, no problem there. Follows the same structure, basically. We also support the virtual machine management from SUSE Manager. It's all salt-based. It has some additional functionality now that allow you to manage storage pools, networking, audit your virtual machines, and then patch them, of course. So that's also covered. In terms of security, vulnerability audit, and remediation, it's easy with SUSE Manager to schedule automatic system-wide scans, apply security, find and apply security patches, run a CVE audit, run security compliance audits with OpenSCAP, provide reports, and of course also do subscription matching, which is not necessarily security related, but also a compliance issue. Besides those more security related issues, we also allow you to monitor the health of your systems by using monitoring based on Prometheus and Grafana that started in 4.0. We added a bit of additional functionality in 4.1 to allow you to have a reverse proxy and make federation easier if you have a distributed environment with firewalls in between and stuff like that. So that's definitely now a lot easier to deploy and manage. Besides those more traditional use cases that usually play in a range between 50 and originally maybe 5,000, in the last years, couple of years, more in the 30, 35 or plus nodes range. We're also increasingly address use cases that lie outside this traditional size range. So if we look at the 50s range, that's usually /SAP, where the deployments might have 4 or 6 nodes only, but are business critical. And on the more than 35,000 nodes, retail comes to mind immediately, and of course edge scenarios where you have a lot more than those 35,000 devices that you need to manage. So these 35,000, this is something we can now do with one server, but we're working on something to allow hundreds of thousands or even 1 million clients with a multi-server architecture. So more on that a bit later. When we talk about /SAP, then there's a nice fit in what we do with content lifecycle management, with the landscapes that you usually have in SAP. Right? We are helping you reducing the reboots, which is a huge issue for a lot of SAP customers, we know, because uptime is very important there. And that also leads to tools like live patching being very interesting, and more on that a bit later. We also have to look into documenting this in a lot of detail, because for some of the customers in that space, they usually run Windows instead of Linux, so we have to make it as easy as possible for them to set up their systems and to manage their systems in a straightforward way. We also offer specialized dashboards for these, and pre-made formulas that allow you to deploy SAP HANA and stuff like that. So that's said about /SAP. We also cover SUSE Manager for Retail, as mentioned before. So that's especially interesting for customers who want one tool to cover everything from core to cloud. We have a point of service offering there as well. Customers need a lot of stability there, so it's a long-term offering with 11.5 years additional support. We of course support image building. We have specialized salt formulas for this, and we work in supporting offline operations and virtualization at the store. And by extension, to a degree, you might recognize some overlap here between the edge case and the retail case. A lot of the things you need for retail, you also need for edge. And if you think about it, retail can be seen as a special case of edge, if you like. You need basically the same infrastructure. You need image building, deployment capabilities. You need to scale the same level or even more scalability with proxies and the hub, and node management, patch management, and health monitoring. So the use case is very similar. So that's why we're also present in that space naturally. And already mentioned the multi-server architecture. So traditionally we have an architecture that has a central server and some proxies that offload network intensive operations for the most part to local nodes. And with a hub, we allow you to run multiple full-fledged servers and coordinate them with a simple integrative hub in the middle. So that centrally allows you to manage everything that's kind of a different approach, and we're making a lot of progress with 4.1. We made some progress with 4.1. We made a lot of progress in 4.2, and we hope we're going to get this out the door in full in 4.3 and maybe 5.0. So let's have a quick look at what we did in 4.2, so 1 year back, basically. So we made some progress here in terms of scalability to ultimately scale to hundreds of thousands of nodes. We added Nutanix as a virtual host manager. We had some virtualization management enhancement, especially in the storage pools area. We introduced maintenance windows. We added a lot of OS support and now also support RHEL 8 content lifecycle management. We made the view live and monitoring a bit easier with the reverse proxy and federation features, provisioning through Yomi. And last but not least, one of our main areas in 4.1 was usability improvements. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but one thing I want to point out is the onboarding of clients with SSH keys. That's something that's very useful if you have a lot of clients that you need to onboard in the public cloud. And they're headless, and you do not have passwords or anything. So that's exactly what you need to onboard a huge number of clients in that kind of setting. And of course, we worked a lot on documentation, and especially in areas that are of particular interest to our customers. So what's coming up with SUSE Manager 4.2? So the main feature, I think, or the here is core Ansible support. The initial GA version is going to consist of Ansible core packages for /15 SP3 in SUSE Manager client tools. So that allows you to, or makes it possible to run playbooks. Ultimately, the goal is to be able to onboard clients from Ansible Tower to SUSE Manager and manage them with Salt like other SUSE Manager clients. So we realize that there are customers out there who have a lot of investment already, assets in Ansible, and do not really want to migrate those to Salt, and that's fully understandable. So we allow it to run a fully hybrid solution ultimately. There are also improvements in the patch management area, in particular the integration with live patching. As I mentioned earlier, that is something that is very interesting if you run /SAP, because it allows you to save downtime, to reduce the downtime of your systems. And the big change here is that most of the functionality now is also available in the UI. In terms of security and compliance, so we're going to offer for all the supported operating systems content for OpenSCAP, so you can verify presence of patches, for example, and things like that. In terms of virtual machine management, we're going to provide VM tuning capabilities that span from CPU pinning, memory settings, and it's going to be a lot more easy to do that in the UI. And formulas to help you set up virtualization hosts in a high availability mode. In terms of usability improvements, most of the features there, and there's quite a lot, so don't want to go into too much detail, but it's always about making the state of systems or configuration, the source of configuration, visible, or give you visibility into that. And of course, there are going to be common workflows guides, and for some of those will also be then transformed into actual wizards or workflows in the UI. We add OS support, I already mentioned Amazon Linux, but there's also going to be Alma Linux, which is a 100% Red Hat clone at the moment. So basically intended to be an CentOS replacement. And we have a ton of other features, some highlights here. We're going to simplify the OpenSUSE Leap to SLES migration. Also vendor changes along the way. We're going to highlight retracted patches. We're not going to actually retract patches that you already applied, and we're not going to keep you from applying retracted patches. We're just going to tell you, make it more visible if a patch was retracted. It shouldn't happen too often, or shouldn't happen at all, but it does happen, and in this case, we're going to make that visible. We're going to allow you to sync the client list, detail list to SCC. So you have a unified view of your entire IT landscape in both SUSE Manager and the SUSE Customer Center. And we're going to allow you to manage program temporary fixes just like regular patches. So that's a kind of unique feature, these program temporary fixes that we provide at SUSE. And now we're going to, it's not going to feel any different whether you're applying a program temporary fix or a regular patch. In terms of support for Edge, we're going to support SLE Micro right from the start. And of course, all the scalability and hub improvements with inter-server sync and offline operations are targeted towards that particular use case. In terms of cloud, as already mentioned, we support Amazon Linux too. And if you get to it, or if community support around that is, or community effort around that is successful, we're also going to add Alibaba Cloud Linux 8 to the list. And of course, we're going to provide a guide for onboarding clients with cloud native tools. There's a lot of diversity there as well. And so we felt it was necessary and helpful to write up what we know about the do's and don'ts in that regard. In the retail space, there we offer build templates for SLE 15 SP3 based POS images, obviously. We are also going to make offline operations possible, including offline branch server deployments, and we are going to offer support for ARM-based point of service devices. What's going to happen after release 2, or what's the plan for after FUT 2, what's coming next? So on a very high level, and we touched upon most of this already to a degree, what we already do, you find on the left side. So we help you already manage compliance, complexity, and growth, and we're going to improve in these areas. And there are some new areas that we want to focus more, some areas that we already cover to a degree, but that we want to put more focus and more emphasis on. So that's ease of use. If you think about the less than 50 devices use case, and especially in that case, but in all other cases as well, it's going to be more and more important to make it possible to get to where you want to be as easy as possible. Security, if 80% of all breaches can be prevented with proper configuration management and patching, we should definitely work hard to make that possible. It's all within reach. And flexibility, that means, for the most part, it means that we're going to modularize SUSE Manager a bit more. So in order for you to deploy exactly the configuration of SUSE Manager that you need, that's going to be particularly important in the cloud or edge scenarios, to be honest. So if you look at a bit more detailed roadmap, and I'm going to skip the parts that we already covered, 4.0, 4.1, and 4.2. I'm going to focus a bit more on 4.3 and 5x. So we're going to, in 4.3 in particular, we're going to drive more of that modularization theme, and we're going to add more wizards for common tasks in the security space. We're going to focus on remediation in particular, and on improved visualization and reporting in many areas. In the managed complexity section, we're going to make offline support better and scale to even more clients. And if you like a yardstick for us weather version, then ultimately deserves the 5x, 5.0 version label, is when all those initiatives, at least the top three there, reach a level that we think completes them to a degree. So if you're fully modularized and containerized, if you have the full SecOps functionality, and when our hub is ultimately able or enables you to run hundreds of thousands of nodes, or maybe a million of nodes in a distributed environment. So that's it for the roadmap part. There is a little thing I want to talk about after that. So if you now want to try out SUSE Manager, there are two ways you can do that. So the obvious one, you can go to SUSE.com for a product trial, and there's a maybe less obvious one, but one I would want to encourage you to also look into. And that is, we have an upstream project for SUSE Manager. It's a uni. It's community supported. We have a monthly community hours call last Friday of the month at 4 p.m. CET. And uni basically runs on OpenSUSE Leap with monthly rolling releases. And yeah, there are, apart from the uni community hours here, a couple of touch points that you could use to get in touch with us, to have a look into, or with a community project, have a look, try it out, and you're going to basically find the same functionality that you then ultimately also find in SUSE Manager. So that might also be a good way to try out SUSE Manager. With that being said, I would welcome you to one of those calls with the Unity community hours, or whatever else. And thank you for attending SUSECON.